Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes a pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's fact. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Episode 165 of the Last Round Podcast. Thank you again for joining us. No guest this week. It's just us two to give you the rundown and the reviews and previews and news and notes in this crazy world we call boxing. But jumping right back into it, this past Saturday, the 19th of February, from the Manchester Arena in Manchester on ESPN Plus here in the United States. Was it on Sky? It was on Sky Sports pay-per-view over there in London, right? England?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Kell-Brook gets the 6th round TKO over Amir King Khan. Mike, you and Al Dawson of The Insider last week both picked Amir Khan. I want to say technically picked Kell-Brook. I did have some concerns about the weight because I wasn't sure if it was going to be, detrimental. Obviously, it wasn't. He pretty much outclassed him from the beginning. It looked like Khan just wasn't even there. His legs weren't even there. What'd you think?
Yeah, you could see early on, not only did Amir Khan go in with the completely wrong game plan, and I think you could hear Bomac in the corner telling him, hey, stop standing in the pocket. He was doing the usual kind of Khan thing that he used to do before. He'd get hit, he'd stay in the pocket, he'd try to trade. I just don't know whether he just got old, maybe the legs weren't there. You could see that he really should have been, punching, getting in, getting out of range, using his speed and his combinations and his quickness of his hands. But he didn't. He just planted his feet, was trying to trade with him. And, after getting caught early on, his legs just weren't there. And I was kind of surprised that Kell-Brook didn't jump on him, because I think there was around a minute left after he got knocked down and his legs weren't there at all. I'm surprised Kell didn't jump on him, try and get him out there, second or third round. But, Dominic Ingle, I think, was telling him, take your time, it's going to come. And it did, really. I think it looks like now that I think maybe even Amir Khan knew that, there wasn't much left. And, I think he was hoping that there was even less, left in Kell-Brook. And I think he thought that was true after Kell kind of got KO'd by Crawford by a jab, and then also telling him, you have to boil down to 149, playing the games about having him change his gloves, pretty much in the ring, and telling him hey, I'm not going to fight unless you change him. I think after all that, he was just trying to get some kind of advantage, and it just wasn't there. Unfortunate, but kind of a bad way to go out for Amir Khan, because he did a lot for British boxing. He did really well in the Olympics, turned pro, kind of changed the whole amateur scene. Him and Audley Harrison brought a lot more, funds after, doing so well in the Olympics. A lot more funds came into the amateur scene. And, look at what we've got now. Up in Sheffield, you have the, the Boxing Institute there. And then we've had Anthony Joshua and a whole host of people come through, thanks to those guys. And, I'm a big fan of Khan, and I like Kell-Brook as well. I kind of grew up, obviously, watching those two. And Amir Khan, for somebody that has no chin, he has an absolutely huge heart, and fighting him because
huge balls too.
Yeah, he honestly does, because when you think, if you don't have a chin, you think, okay, well, I'm going to play it safe a lot of the time, but he never did. Even in this fight, I think he even went into it thinking I'm probably going to get smoked here. When he saw that Kell-Brook looked decent, at the weigh-in, I think his heart kind of changed, and he's like, I think I'm going to get beat, and then. But he still stood there, still traded the whole time, and eventually got stopped in the 6th. But great performance for him, and turning it around to Kell-Brook now. I thought he looked good, but it was hard to say because Amir Khan was so bad. I think he's won himself another payday though, and if I was him, I think those keeping it on the British side of things, and obviously not trying to go up too far and fight someone at a world level. I think fighting like a Conor Benn or a Chris Eubank Jr. would be good. If he wants one fight. Conor Benn, because it's in and around the same weight division. If he wants 2 fights, he could probably go up, fight Chris Eubank Jr. Around 150, 160. he kind of gets a free reign there, because if he loses to Christian Eubank Jr., he can say, it's not my weight division. Conor Benn, let's go. And then he can fight Conor Benn at 147 or, around 150, and then he's got two big, massive British dust-ups, two big British pay-per-view fights for the kind of for the price of one, right? Because he just goes up, fights Chris Eubank, because I'm not a middleweight. I was always going to lose that, kind of when he fought Triple G or when Canelo fought Amir Khan. Comes back down, fights Conor Benn. So, great for him. Two huge paydays fighting Khan, and then obviously like the winner for that fight, kind of won another payday really, because I'm sure Khan will probably retire, and Kell-Brook gets one more big payday before he rides off into the sunset. And he needed that win, because I think his resume, looking back on it now, and I think even Kell would, if he sat down and retired right now, would look at him just be like, I really wasted the talent that I had, because he beat Sean Porter and he had the world at his feet then. And either it was him, not living right, ballooning in weight and then struggling to get back down, or, he always says that people ducked him, but did they? Not one person wanted to fight him for a world title. Surely they did, but he went and fought like, Jojo Dan and a whole host of, people like that. And, he was one of my favorites at the time. I really liked him and Khan, and, Khan managed to get people in the ring. Why couldn't Brook?
Money.
True, yeah, but I'm sure, he was with Matchroom, wasn't he? So, like, I'm sure, Eddie would have wanted to put some of these guys on at big shows in Sheffield, because Kell-Brook had a decent following. But I don't know, was it Kell just not living right, and they couldn't test these big people, or was it just other people in the in the world over in America just holding those belts hostage? But I mean, we'll never know now. It's too late, isn't it? It's that he's not on that level anymore. But
starting with the actual fight, I mean, as I said, my concerns initially were about the weight. Kell-Brook has, essentially overgrown the 147-pound division. I mean, obviously this fight was at a catch weight, like 149 or
yeah.
Something like that. So they were both, around that weight for this fight. So that's the only concern that I had. But like, obviously on fight night and even at the weigh-in and how he looked, and he was completely, like, if you want to compare it to something also that also happened this weekend that we'll touch on, some people on Twitter and online saw the rounds of Jaime Munguia after the weigh-in the day before his fight. He didn't look too good. We'll touch on that situation as we move forward and throughout the show. But that's what I thought. I was like, okay, Brook, he kind of kills himself to make 147, or at least as close as he can to that. So that's why I had a concern, but I still, in the back of my mind, I still felt, even if he had some difficulty making that weight and it would affect him, I thought, well, maybe it shouldn't affect him that much, just because I feel he's the stronger fighter. And Khan's never showed any improvement about, from his chin, his legs. Khan's polarizing because he's fought a lot of people. He's, his stardom, his celebrity across the pond is big. He's been on those reality shows and TVs or whatever. And he brings a lot of money to the table. But I just thought Khan was not Khan, but I thought Brook just had too much pop in his punches. And Brook doesn't really have, I don't want to say doesn't really. I wouldn't say he has like a glass chin or anything like that. He can take a shot a lot more than Amir Khan. But from that first round, when Brook rocked him, and you could see it in Khan's legs, I was like, here we go. That's when I kind of knew. I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to bode well for Amir Khan here. And obviously it didn't, I mean, I don't think he was close at all. There wasn't any rounds where he really, do you think he knew, like, going in? Or do you really think he, like, saw Kell-Brook at the weigh-in and he's like, oh man, maybe this isn't my night? Or do you think he knew, like, I'm probably not going to win this, but it's a big payday. A lot of people are interested. I'm going to get paid. He wants to fight. This is like 10 years in the making or whatever. So he just went for it. I mean, obviously everybody knows, especially after you watch all these interviews and that face-to-face that him and Kell-Brook did, the ball was in Amir Khan's court this whole time, this last 10 years or so. It was Amir Khan who, at the drop of a hat could say, all right, let's fight. It was always Kell Brook trying to chase him. I mean, so, obviously Kell Brook gets the win. And like you said, I agree. He secured himself another decent payday, another likely pay-per-view fight, especially if he fights Conor Benn. I know Chris Eubank Jr. obviously fights at 160 pounds. And then he called him out on Twitter. And then Kell Brook, I believe, responded and said, don't mention my name unless you want to fight at 155 pounds, something along those lines. So who knows if they're just fueling the fire here. But do you think I could see how when you mentioned that he fights Conor Benn, he fights him at 160, he loses because, I would think
Eubank.
You think Eubank would lose?
No, you said Conor Benn. You mean Eubank?
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. Eubank. He fights Eubank at 160 pounds, and he loses. But like you said, he could say, "Well, this isn't really my weight class." Conor Benn, let's fight at 147 pounds or a catch weight 150 or something like that. He still has that payday. Honestly, who do you think realistically? Because obviously, Eubank and Conor Benn both have a lineage, and they're significantly big stars across the pond over there, especially because of their dads. Who would be a bigger commercial success or a bigger commercially, induced fight? Kell Brook, Chris Eubank Jr. or Kell Brook and Conor Benn? I mean, because you obviously you grew up over there. That's your place over here. So I'm asking you as an expert.
Expert, I don't know about that. I would go, and it's because of the platform. I think Brook and Eubank, because Sky Sports is in pretty much every single home in the UK. I would imagine now, it's very, very rare. I think somebody now doesn't have, like some kind of, digital platform like that. Whereas DAZN is still new, and obviously Conor Benn's on DAZN. So I think, taking the easy way out of this question, I'm going to go with, Sky Sports, because I think, Eubank. But just look at the numbers we spoke about the other week. Eubank, when he fought, who's it? He went all those rounds.
Oh, it was over like 1 million viewers or something, right?
Yeah, Williams. Sorry, when he fought Williams,
Liam Williams, right?
Yeah. So I think at the time, obviously, Matchroom were on Sky Sports, and most people around our age grew up watching Kell Brook in the UK, and those are the sort of people I would imagine now that are buying like the pay-per-views because you've got you're settled, you've got a good income and stuff like that. You're now old enough to be purchasing like pay-per-views, and so I could see that doing a good amount of numbers on Sky Sports. Kell Brook, I don't believe has a contract with Matchroom at the minute. I think he's just fight by fight. Obviously, you got that last fight with Amir Khan was on Sky Sports, so why not stay there? And it'd be an easy fight to make, because Eubank's obviously with Sauerland, who are on Sky Sports. They're using Eubank pretty much as their kind of selling point. He's their big star. He's their
cash cow. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of their AJ at the minute until AJ re-signs with, either them or DAZN. So yeah, I could see it. Kell Brook's probably I think he's admitted at the minute he's a prize fighter. He is just fighting for money. He's not fighting for world titles anymore. He's trying to secure, the money for him and his children to retire on. So I'm sure he may even just turn around and say to Eddie, like, what's your offer? Okay, Sky Sports, what's your offer? I'm taking the biggest.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with that. I think he's I think he knows he's at the point of his career. He went through all I think every boxing fan can, generally assess that after his fight against Gennady Golovkin, he wasn't the same. His eye socket broke. Then Spence went across over there to fight him for the IBF title, broke his other eye socket, I believe. And he just wasn't the same. I was surprised he took the Spence fight after fighting Triple G. I was like, oh my gosh. Think about it. We talk about Khan's resume and Kell Brook's resume. When Kell Brook was the IBF champion, a lot of his fights were against, besides Spence, and the guy who beat him for the title, there wasn't really any of the big names at the time who were in that division. He didn't fight them, except it was Spence. And Spence at that time was that was his first title shot, and he got it. But he fought the likes of, obviously, like I just mentioned, Golovkin, Spence, Khan, Would you say those three are the biggest names on his resume as of right now?
Golovkin, Spence, Sean Porter.
Sean Porter? I mean, yeah. I mean, that was a big win. That was a big win. I mean, like, you don't think that with Kell-Brook, especially when he won, he came over here to LA too, and he beat Sean Porter. He got the decision. You don't think Eddie Hearn at that time? I mean, like, I don't think we should take away any blame from Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, because obviously that was his main promoter. That was his promoter at the time, primarily. You know, obviously Kell-Brook deserves some of the blame, but you don't think Eddie Hearn was like, okay, we got a major title at one of the most lucrative divisions in the whole sport, so let's milk it in some British only fights over here and make some money off of this title. You don't think, from a business perspective, that's also what happened? And
I'm sure most promoters do that. You know, you often see someone wins the world title, they then have a gimme, they have a home fight, you know, something where I'm sure the promoter gets a nice cut because they bring an opponent in on a lesser wage. But you know, the stadium or wherever they held it is going to obviously sell out because, you know, it's the homecoming. You know, the Kings returns, you know, with the World Championship. I don't think Eddie wanted that many. I don't think he wanted like a Jojo Dan, and then who else did he fight? Carson Jones twice. You know, there's people like that. It's nothing. You know, it's okay to have a couple of them, but not to never really establish yourself, never really test yourself against, you know, never try to unify. I mean, we don't know what happened behind closed doors. I'm just going off the reality of what happened. You know, I don't know whether Kell-Brook did try. I don't know whether Eddie Hearn did try. We're not privy to those sorts of conversations.
No, right.
So
absolutely. I mean, when he won the IBF title from Sean Porter, I believe that was 2014. I believe Mayweather was still active, but you know, Pacquiao obviously was still there. Andre Berto, Robert Guerrero, who else? Marcos Maidana. Who else? I'm drawing blanks right here. Victor Ortiz, maybe. Who during that time, during his title reign of, you know, with the IBF welterweight title,
Maidana.
Who else am I missing?
Paulie Malignaggi is probably still around then, right?
Malignaggi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who else? Who else was there? In terms of, you know, fights he could have been made, potentially.
Yeah, I think you've named most of the ones that you would have thought about.
I feel like we're missing somebody, but you know, it'll come to us. But I don't know, maybe, you know, it's possible that Eddie Hearn and Kell-Brook, they made offers and they're like, oh, but you have to come over here to fight us. I mean, look at what ended up happening. Spence said, okay, I'll go over there and take your title. Maybe that was the stubbornness behind them and said, hey, if you want this title, you have to come over here to England and take it. And maybe a lot of American fighters didn't want to do that.
Devin Alexander, Chris Algieri,
yes.
Louis Collazo. Those are the three people around that time period that Khan fought.
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't know. And you know what the crazy thing about it is, like, or maybe they looked at Kell-Brook at that time as like dangerous, because I mean, he came over and he beat Sean Porter. He was a threat. I don't think anybody could say that. It was just kind of underwhelming that he didn't get any of those significant names. That, you know, imagine a fight with even a Manny Pacquiao at the time, or you know, who else? Malignaggi, maybe New York.
Malignaggi would have been a good fight. You know, Malignaggi didn't really turn down. You know, he fought Khan, he fought Ricky Hatton, right?
Right.
He would travel.
Yeah.
You know, Paulie, it would have been he's a mouthpiece. You know, it would have been, he's well known in the UK. So that would have been a perfect fight to have, you know, at the time. You know, even Devin Alexander, like, why not tread in the footsteps
Timothy Bradley?
Yeah, good fighter, another good fighter. Yeah.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I would have loved to see a Bradley Brook fight. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, it's
I think that would have been a great fight.
It is disappointing. It is just one or two of those of the list of people there's probably 10 now that we've said, now that we've kind of woken up and remembering the names.
No, yeah. But I mean, obviously promotional politics, they've always been there.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Bradley, he fought like a Jesse Vargas. He fought Pacquiao, I think 3 times. I think it was 3. Then he fought Marquez, top rank, kept it, they kept the rotation, which worked. I mean, what if even a Brooke Marquez fight, at that time? Marquez was still kind of active at the same time. I don't know, I still think especially when he took the fight against Golovkin, I was like, man, this guy's got balls going up to all the 160 pounds. And he had some success. Like Al Dawson last week was saying to us, he's like, he was some moments where he had some success, but it was ultimately too much because Golovkin's power ended up catching him eventually with those body shots, those liver shots, and just kind of crippled him. But, like you said, he earns himself another payday. He's in the driver's seat right now, essentially. He's doing the prize fighting. Let's just see who bites first or who ends up getting. Like, if you had to pick right now, who gets to fight first? Is it Conor Benn or Chris Eubank? Does if it's Eubank, does he bend to Brooks' demands and go to 155?
I could see something like that being the sticky situation if he goes down the Eubank. I think he's a Eubank. I think he'd want it on his terms. He'd want to come out second. He'd want the majority of the pie. In all reality, who deserves it? Who's
the bigger star in the UK? Is it Eubank or is it Brook? Who's more well known? Who probably has the more marketing power behind them?
That's a good question, because obviously Kell Brooks has been around longer, hasn't he?
Right, and then
a lot of people have seen him and grown up with him.
And this fight with Khan obviously helps his stock.
Yeah, whereas Eubank, but then I don't know though. As Eubank's obviously there's been Chris Eubank and then Chris Eubank Jr. So I suppose in a way his name has been around for longer, because like our parents, if the boxing fans will know who Chris Eubank is because of the father. That's a good question. Who draws my eyes? Maybe Eubank, after what they just said about,
really?
That was the highest boxing average, so highest peak rating in Sky Sports since Anthony Joshua against Gary Cornish or whoever it was. Maybe that's the telltale sign. His
name, Eubank's name, is really that powerful over there, isn't it?
It's one of those questions I find very hard, because when me and you talk about this sort of stuff, and then we say how big of a draw is so-and-so boxer? I'm always like, no, they're not that big. And then you actually hear that they actually draw quite a lot. It's very hard to tell unless you're in the know, I guess, because I judge it off the people I hang around with, I guess, or, the people that we know, and do they know who this boxer is? And, how many articles do we see and, stuff like that. So it is sometimes hard to judge, because I remember we were surprised by Munguia's, huge following. But, it's probably because the fight was in Southern California. But, yeah, it is sometimes hard to tell. But, yeah, I would have to go with Eubank going off.
That's crazy. Because I would think it would have been Brook, just based on the resume that he's had so far and the fights that he's been. Golovkin, Porter, Spence, Khan.
I'm just guessing the Eubank name, like the Conor Benn name. I think
it has that much weight behind it that you think so.
I'm just going off the statistics from that Sky Sports.
It's crazy.
Fort Williams. So
that's crazy.
An educated guess.
Might as well look at the other side of the coin too. Kell Brook, Conor Benn, who's the biggest name and who has the more stock in their name if they go against each other? Who's the A side?
For that one, I would have to go with Brook, because
you don't sound too sure on that one.
I'm just thinking that Ben may be the bigger name in terms of viewership because of the same thing, because of the Conor Benn name and because of his recent knockouts and stuff like that. Whereas, Kell Brook's kind of on the slide. But if it's who's going to ring walk second and stuff like that, maybe Brook, just because of the fact that he was a former world champion. Does that sound kind of strange thing to say, since I've just said that Ben's the bigger name?
So just you tell me if I'm right here. Categorizing all three of those names. You tell me if I'm right, if this is how you would categorize them, just based on what you're telling me. You're telling me number one would be Eubank. in terms of stock, in terms of, notoriety in the UK. Then Brook, then Ben.
I don't know about
1, 2, 3.
Notoriety. I'm going by who I think eyes on the TV.
Okay.
Because in terms of because notoriety, I would class as Colbert-Garcia is probably the bigger because of the fact that he's won things. But I'm judging it just off your question being how many people would watch that person. So I would go with Eubank, probably Ben, and then Brook, just because of the name. I think the name sells so much. It sounds surprising, but from what we've seen,
that's crazy.
From what we've seen, recently, I think the name does sell that much.
That's crazy. I mean, I knew that they had a lot of weight over there, but I mean, you kind of describing it how you're describing it, it's a lot more than I thought.
Just from what we see, I guess. If you look at IFL TV numbers and stuff like that, Ben's a good salesman himself just because he's so wound up, so tight, and if they ask him the wrong question, he just flies off the handle and stuff like that. So he's good viewership himself. And I think Eubank is very polarizing, people because of the way that he is. And I think that people want to see him. Some people love him and they want to see him win. And then other people, think he's an egotistical guy and he's, full of himself and they want to see him lose. He's like a very small dose of Floyd Mayweather, I guess.
I don't know why Andrade and Eddie Hearn just don't make a fight with Eubank. They're both middleweights.
That'd be a tricky fight for Eubank.
But I think it's intriguing. I was like, why not? Eubank has a name.
Stylistically, he's good, but I think Eubank he seems to be, because look at this. This is the thing I find intriguing is if Eubank's 32 years old, he needs to really hurry up and try to win a world title if that's what he wants to do.
He was IBO champion.
Right. It seems to me he just wants as much money for the least passive resistance. He wants the weaker fights. He's 32 years old and he's calling out a welterweight in Colbert. And
money. It's money.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to get at.
That's all it is.
Yeah, he knows. He's like, you know what? He's a name. I'm a name. British. Let's do it. Both on Sky Sports. Let's go. Instead of thinking to himself okay, I need to try to get a Triple G, a Murata. I need to get in there with Canelo. I need to get an Andrade, a Charlo, which really should be what he's aiming at. And because he's just fought Williams, and before that he fought Korobov, and that fight lasted one round because his shoulder popped out, and he's been sat on the sidelines too long. And next gen Eubank, dude, he's 32.
Yeah, you're right.
He needs to hurry up.
Okay, now I'm playing just fantasy booking here. If you throw Khan's name in the mix in terms of star power, A side, is Khan number one above all the other three?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because of his Middle East, the Pakistani, the guys over in Dubai, Qatar, and stuff like that, his big, Islamic following.
No, right. Yeah. But he's definitely the biggest star out of all those four names, including his.
Yeah, I'd love to see. He's probably one of the in boxing.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Because just think how many people there are in in the Middle East and stuff that follow him. How many people in Pakistan, Dubai, Qatar, how many guys are getting invites to fight over in Dubai and fight Phil LaGreco and people like that?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just him and AJ who are getting those invitations over there.
Yeah, I think it's both obviously big Islamic celebrities, so I'm sure that's one of the reasons they get invited over there. And
is AJ's Muslim?
Yeah.
Oh, that went over my head. I never knew that. But yeah, that went over my head completely. That's news to me. So Khan, who's a bigger star right now, Khan or AJ? I'm throwing some at you right now. I think, is AJ the only one that rivals Khan's star power right now?
In the UK, yeah, I would say so, yeah.
So
that's a good question. AJ or Khan? Man? Khan's been around longer, but I mean, AJ's just a huge monster of a guy. Him walking down the street, you're going to say, who's that?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, in terms, might be, I would say AJ. In terms of buys and stuff like that for pay-per-views, it'd be AJ. But if he's just thinking of walking down the street and putting out 2 pictures and hey, who's this?
Right.
You'd have to go AJ, I guess.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. It looks like Khan might retire. I don't know if he said he's thinking about that. Who knows? He knows. He's still like, what, they're both like 35, so he might have one more in him. But just based on his performance, something he has to seriously consider, obviously. And Brook, like you said, has earned one more payday. He seems like he's just kind of in the driver's seat. So let's see what he does. Might be a Conor Benn, might be a Chris Eubank, might be both in the next 2 fights. Who knows? But obviously Brook was the better man. Like one-sided fight. The stoppage was kind of underwhelming to me, even though I understand why it was stopped. It was kind of underwhelming. But I think if it would have kept going, Brook would have just knocked his head off. Like he would have just stopped him easily. More easily than I thought.
It was coming. I think either Khan was just too brave for his own good, and I think maybe Bomac would have thrown in the towel because it was one-way traffic.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. So Brook gets one more payday at least, maybe 2, depending. Khan, we'll see what he does, but he's made his money. He's been very polarizing in the sport. He's shown that he's not afraid to take some pretty significant fights. Danny Garcia, Canelo Alvarez, Malignaggi,
Zab Judah. Everyone forgets that one. Zab Judah was legit back then.
Yeah. Khan's has a pretty decent resume of names, regardless if he's won or lost.
Peterson.
Lamont Peterson. Yeah. Khan's been in there, man. Khan's been in there.
Maidana.
Yeah. Khan's been in there, man. It's you can't criticize him too hard for the heart that he showed, because he's shown it, and he still maintained power to draw and to draw money. So it works out for him. I do want to ask before we move on to the next fight on this card, Eubank, he's obviously fights between 160 168. Is there any chance he gets a Canelo fight?
It looked like they were trying to,
in terms of like money, like star power. I feel like Canelo might, who knows? Like nobody thought Amir Khan was going to fight Canelo like 5-6 years ago. That came out of nowhere. Like, what the hell?
I do see.
Do the Brits fly over to Vegas for a Chris Eubank Canelo fight?
I think they would, but I think it's one of those things. I think we're going to see Canelo now because of how big he's become. I do think we may see him travel to some other places for fights now. Like I could see him doing like obviously a big homecoming in Mexico, and either fighting someone like a Chris Eubank Jr. or they're waiting for that next star, at middleweight, light heavyweight or cruiserweight to appear in the UK, so he can come over to the UK and maybe even do one of those Eddie Hearn type fights over in Dubai or Qatar, like doing a Saudi Arabia fight, like an AJ fight for Canelo.
What about a Canelo Eubank fight? What's better, Miami or New York?
To Vegas, because he grew up in Vegas.
Eubank?
Yeah. His dad kicked him out, didn't he? He lived in over here and trained at Mayweather's gym for a...
I remember him training at Mayweather's gym, but I'm talking about like to really capitalize on the UK traffic that would want to go to that fight. New York or Miami?
New York's obviously a cheaper flight, easier to get to. So I would say like New York for that. But then Vegas, obviously, like the Brits just love Vegas. They love to party, it's and then obviously Vegas just has that, you're driving down the strip and there's all the lights, and you go into the fight and there's Eubank v Canelo up on the signs.
That's
I
wild.
think like New York or Vegas would be perfect for the Brits. They'd fly over to that, and if he's the only guy you could really think of that would be a big enough draw for Canelo to fight, but I don't know. It'd have to be at 168 because it looks like Canelo's going to light heavyweight, doesn't it? And I don't know if we haven't really got any big enough names to
honestly, like I could totally see it, and I could see Eddie Hearn. I mean, Eubank is obviously with Sky Sports, and he's promoted by who? Eubank is Kala
Sauerland and his brother.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe Eddie Hearn wouldn't want to do that, but you think it's possible Eddie Hearn maybe he's like, hey, what about Eubank? He proposes it to Canelo. He's like, he's got a big following, do it in Vegas and they'll travel.
I can see Canelo wanting to do that. Technically you are the world champion. Like, why not?
He's already unified. He's undisputed at 168.
Yeah.
He can do whatever. He he's always been able to do whatever he wants, essentially. But he has all the belts. So if people say, like, if he fights Eubank, oh, I can't believe he fought him. He should have fought. He should have went up to 175. It's like, criticize him all you want. The guys, he unified all those titles in a year and a half. He beat all the guys with the belts.
Like, if I was a fighter and I lived over here, I was born and bred here, and you're watching, like, the Cal Froch, George Groves, the Klitschko against AJ, and you're seeing them come out in these stadiums where 80,000 fans and fireworks and the crowd's going crazy. You'd be like, I want to fight there.
Right. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I'm telling you, I don't think a Eubank Canelo fight is out of the question. I feel like that's one of those that comes out of left field and people are like, what the hell? Like, I could see it. I could really see it just because of Eubank's name. I could see it. Like, I mean, he has limited options. In terms of star power fighting somebody else, obviously Canelo's name draws on his own. But, you want somebody. That's why they picked Khan all those years ago, because Khan has a lot of star power. I feel like Eubank might be the same. I don't think he has as much star power as Khan did at that time, even now, but Eubank's at 168-ish. He's in and around the weight classes. Canelo's already unified the titles at 168. He can do whatever he wants.
He would be if you said to me, like, pick a Brit for him to fight, like, realistically, like, in a weight division, he's the biggest star from, like, 168 to 175 to cruiserweight if Canelo really wanted to test himself. He's the only one I could think of.
Like, I know I can hear the criticisms now saying, what has Eubank done to deserve that fight? He's never won the big one. He's never won a world championship. He was an IBO world champion. I get it. But in terms of star power, marketability, business, and like you said, the UK would travel, especially to Vegas. They want to party. They go to a fight. They make an adventure, a vacation out of it, an atmosphere. I mean, if you look at it from a business standpoint, why not Eubank? Even though Canelo would knock him out,
Floyd fought Andre Berto, didn't he? That
was his last fight. That was his last fight. Yeah, he fought Andre Berto, Robert Guerrero.
Yeah.
I mean, even though Robert Guerrero, but before that, he was champion and he was on a pretty good win streak. But he fought Andre Berto, even though Berto, it
was randomly as well.
Yeah. It was just, just a way to give Berto a payday. And he was a PBC, I want to go off onto the sunset on an easier fight. It's pretty much what it was. But yeah, in terms of, I'm not talking about skill, we're talking about business. Canelo Eubank. I could see it. Like, I'm saying it right now. I'm throwing it out there. I think it's a possibility. And if it shows up, people are like, what the hell? Like, where did this come from? Well, you're hearing it here right now that I think that's one of those names. Like in 2015, when they announced Canelo Khan, and people were like, what the heck? Amir Khan fighting Canelo going up in weight? Thinking about that situation, Canelo Eubank. I'm just throwing it out there, right there. I can see it. I can totally see it. I'm telling you. I mean, we haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything about who his next fight is. I mean, is it going to happen this next fight? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely.
I would go next year.
Right. But I'm telling you, it's there. It's there. Also on the card, we were talking about that topic for a long time. Also on that card, Natasha Jonas gets the second round TKO over Chris Namus. And this is for the vacant WBO super welterweight title. What do you think about Natasha Jonas's performance?
Yeah, a good performance. You could see that she threw that same combination a few times before she caught her with it and knocked her out. But is it a good thing for women's boxing? Everyone's going to be like, it's such a negative thing to say after, such a nice lady won a world title. But she had a chance against Terry Harper. She had a chance against Katie Taylor. And, it's just that there's no fights and there's not enough people in women's boxing that they were just like, okay, let's just move you up. Let's just keep moving you up. And eventually you'll get it. Like, you get a title shot, you get a title shot, you get a title shot. It's like, it kind of poo-poos women's boxing in my opinion. lovely lady. She's great on commentary, and it's good to see her win a world title. But I was just kind of like, if you're a male, you can't just be like, okay, I'm just going to get a title shot at, welterweight, and then I'm going to go up to 154. I'm going to go up to 160, 168. Like, oh, finally I won one. It's it's just kind of bad for women's boxing. It's
just like throwing darts at the board, see when you hit the bullseye.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's just what it is, and it's why people keep saying about Clarissa Shields, like, oh, she's unbelievable. Like, look what she's won, and look how many world titles she's won. But dude, it's kind of like a brand new sport in a weird way, right? There's not that many people. Yeah. You couldn't do that in men's boxing. That's why, like, when they compare her to, like, oh, well, she did it faster than Lomachenko did. You're comparing apples to oranges there. It's absolutely completely different.
Yeah, I remember. You're right. I totally forgot about that. That was an argument that people were like putting out there when she did that and comparing her to Lomachenko. And like, okay, I understand why you're doing it, but like, you can't really compare it. Like you said, it's apples and oranges. You can't really compare the two.
No.
Yeah.
There's not enough people. There's not enough. Contenders. You can't just move up and down the weight divisions, or else all guys would do that.
I do think, and obviously I think you might disagree with this, you think it's Marshall, but I do think that she is the best pound for pound female boxer. I do think that. And I still think she beats Savannah Marshall, even though you say she doesn't. I really do.
Well, we'll find out this year.
I mean, it seems like it's going to happen. I really think she still, if she beats Shields, not only if she beats her by decision, but if she like knocks her out, that's going to be crazy.
Shields goes rounds of everyone.
Yeah, she always goes for the cards.
Yeah, she goes rounds, and like, okay, she's fought some good people, but Savannah Marshall takes people out.
That's wild.
They've had one, I think just one similar opponent, Hannah Rankin. Savannah Marshall knocked her out.
Oof.
I know styles make fights, and that's people's arguments and stuff like that, but she knocked her out.
I hope whenever they meet, hopefully it's soon, next couple months. I just hope it lives up to the hype. I really do.
Well, Savannah's just moved. She's fighting April 2nd, I think, or it's the beginning of April, and then the next fight should be Shields in probably this summer.
Hopefully. Shields is going to be there ringside for that fight in April. She has to be.
She was just ringside, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Yeah, she has to be. So, I don't know. I hope that fight lives up to the hype, and I still think Shields is going to win, and you think Marshall's gonna, because of the knockout power.
Was it Marco Viejas that said that the other way around when I wasn't here?
Oh, from Fight Hub. I don't remember.
You said, "Oh, I wish Mike was there to."
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, we had touched on the Shields fight, and then we talked about the potential Savannah Marshall, and I had brought up because you were out that week, so I asked Marcos from Fight Hub TV to sub in. And
we'll put some money on it on Twitter.
Yeah, and I remember I said that. I was like, oh, if Mike was here, he would have went back and forth with you. He picked Savannah Marshall. So, because I mean, like, I understand that in terms of knockout power, I do, but I don't know. I just feel like in the pros, I think Shields is just too much. I really do.
I honestly think she's getting worse.
You think so?
I think that she's become so accustomed to winning fights due to her size and her power. If you watch her punch selection now, I don't think it's that. I think it's okay. It's decent. But I honestly think that Savannah Marshall is a lot better. She mixes it up more. She's more powerful. She's got a lot more pop. She just has that more flamboyant Peter Fury style that we saw Tyson Fury have.
Right.
Maybe that's something that makes it look better than it is. Maybe, but we'll see. The only thing I do think we both kind of agree on is Savannah used to always seem a little bit timid, but I think she's starting to believe in herself a little bit more, which I think it will be good, and hopefully the occasion doesn't get too much for her, because I think when she went to the Olympics, was it, or one of the World Championships, she kind of froze.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I think time though, and now she's been on the big stage and she's kind of bled through. She's come through the ranks. I'm hoping that now that something like that wouldn't happen.
Maybe, yeah. Hopefully that's helped her.
Yeah, or if she does, I'll probably lose a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. Like, like I said, I think I've said this before about this fight last week or the week before. Mayweather, what does he say? You could be the best fighter in the gym. I'm the best fighter under the lights. That's a true statement. Like, that happens. There's a difference in between those two things. So I just hope it lives up to the hype. there was a lot of hype behind Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer. Remember when that fight happened? They both had titles, and they were it was a unification fight or undisputed or whatever it was. And then Shields, kind of outclassed Hammer, and it didn't work out. So the hype wasn't there. I just hope I just hope it lives up to it. Whoever wins, I hope it's an exciting fight. I really do.
Bigger fight than Taylor Serrano?
Now, no, because Jake Paul is involved. So no.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Jake Paul made that fight 10 times bigger. Eddie Hearn, I think, has said in recent interviews that I've seen, he was like, yeah, I think he's acknowledged that. He's like, yeah, Jake Paul coming in and managing her career and helping her really elevated her stock and really, I think he even said, he was like, Jake Paul coming in and attaching his name to this is the reason why we're able to utilize the big room in Madison Square Garden. That's what he said. And he's right.
Crazy.
He's right. That's the best thing that could have happened to either Taylor or Serrano, because that increased their payday. And it's like
$1 million purse for Serrano. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. That increased their payday. So I don't know. But either way, I hope both of those fights, when they happen, are live up to the hype. Running off the card, Bradley Ray. Rhea? Is it Ray?
Yeah.
Ray gets the first round TKO early night and improves to 12-0 over Craig McCarthy, who takes the first loss of his career, I believe. What do you think about this matchup?
Great matchup. Good early knockout. Bradley Ray looked legit. That's why I stuck it on there, really. Just an unbelievable performance. And it's one of those ones when you're on a big card like that, like a pay-per-view card, the Brokemere card, you need to make a performance like that. You need to sell yourself. People will be going away from the arena talking about that. So that's definitely put him in the shop window for, bigger fights and bigger paydays.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, this last weekend from the RCC Boxing Academy in Russia. I'm surprised this was in Russia. I still didn't even know until we mentioned it last week, I'm sorry, that Linares was fighting. But Linares was on the losing end of this matchup. Zaur Abdullayev, I hope I said that right, improves to 15-1 as he gets the TKO stoppage in the 12th round against Jorge Linares. This was for the WBC silver lightweight title. We talked about Khan maybe need to really consider retirement. Is it also time for El Niño de Oro, Jorge Linares, to consider it as well?
Yeah. Both of them, hopefully. He grew up watching both of them, and they're, so good. Someone started calling me. I don't want to see him, get knocked out, a few times now, and hopefully he rides off into the sunset now, because that's his 54th fight, and I just, I've enjoyed watching him. He lost this one. Obviously, he got knocked out by Cano not too long back. I think it's time. If he moved back down to lightweight after trying to go up to 140 for a period of time, and found those guys too big and too strong. So I think it's time to call it, and it's going to be.
Tell me if you agree with this really quick. I feel maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Linares' pride is a little different. But I feel like Linares is going to be like Gamboa, where Gamboa PBC keeps giving him paydays and giving him to these younger guys as they move up. Do you think Linares would be open to that?
I hope not.
Hopefully not. But I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. They throw money at him. Hey, Linares, you're a name. You were a world champion. You fought Lomachenko. You fought Devin Haney. You fought these guys.
It's going that way, though.
It is. It is going that way.
The last few fights.
I hope it's not like that.
No, the last few fights seem like that. And okay, Linares has had 54 fights, but Linares has had some big fights and he's had some big paydays. So in my opinion, I hope, I obviously have no idea his financial situation, but I hope he doesn't need to. I would imagine Gamboa briefly was at the top and probably didn't earn, a substantial amount of money. So I think Gamboa is probably in a different area in terms of, financially. So he maybe has to take these fights and be like a gatekeeper because, he's not a journeyman, is he? He's a better standard than that. I hope Linares doesn't. But the problem is I wouldn't want to see Linares RCC Boxing Academy in a city I can't name in Russia. Is that a retirement fight for somebody like him?
Well, that's why I think at least he's going to have one more fight.
One more, but fight somebody, not a young, hungry lion. Fight somebody in and around the same ability as you, like a 50-50 fight, maybe 60-40 in your favor so you can go out, give the fans, he owns a gym in Vegas, fight in Vegas on an undercard, co-main, something like that. And then 55 fights, that's a great place to go out on.
Do you think that Golden Boy would still make a Ryan Garcia Jorge Linares fight?
Oh man, you don't want to get seen. I don't want to see that. If he gets knocked out by Ryan, I'd be upsetting.
You never know. He has a relationship with Golden Boy. I don't know if they were involved in this fight, but I don't know if they were or not. I don't think they were, but
I can see it, dude. Yeah, because
I honestly could see it. I could see it.
He fought Devin Haney, right? Not long ago.
Yeah. I mean, you know how it works. Like all these fighters in these divisions, they'll fight the other ones. Like, oh, I fought this guy and I beat him in 5 rounds, and it took you 9 rounds or something. Like it's a narrative they built around it.
I'm trying to think of like a 135er. That would be a good final fight for him, like a 50-50, 60-40 fight.
Do you think that if Linares won, do you think Golden Boy was hoping, if he wins, we can make the Ryan fight with him at a later, like sometime this year? I think they were looking at that. I bet you that was on the table. That was on the table.
I could see it because the weakness that Linares has always been early knockouts by heavy punching people. Because Cano and then earlier ones before that, every time he lost, it was always to heavy punching people early. Obviously, this fight wasn't. I'm not trying to say that before people jump on that,
right?
Because this was a 12th round knockout. But fighting someone like Ryan, obviously with the age and stuff like that, I could see that. You might have hit it on the head though, like him and Gamboa.
Yeah, maybe I could see
them
it.
Against each other. Yeah.
Right.
Final fight.
Yeah, you know what? That's him and Gamboa right there.
I would like that fight actually. I just thought of it after you said it. I was like, why don't we put those two together?
Yeah. I hope he doesn't go the route Gamboa and just becomes a name and he's like, they're paying me to fight these young up and coming guys. I'll take it. But you bringing up that as a possibility. That's interesting.
We've had some requests for an update from Roberto Diaz from Golden Boy. So I'll try and get him on and do a bonus show.
We'll reach out to him. Yeah, we'll reach out to him, see if we can get him on and give us an update.
I'll ask him about Linares. Is he still with them? And can we do a Gamboa fight?
You know what? That both in their, would you call it the twilight of their careers, or would you call them the back end? I mean, whatever. However you want to describe it, that's actually a pretty good fight. At this point, that's a very interesting fight. Like, oh wow, like they're kind of in similar spots in their careers right now.
That's a freebie for you, Robert. You can have that one.
Dude, I could see that. I could totally see. If that happens, people hear first on the last round. But, obviously the winner, Abdullayev, is now the WBC silver lightweight champion. I think I don't know if he was, but he has the title now. I don't know if they're mandatory for Devin Haney or what's going on here. Devin Haney beat both of them. So do we want to see that again? Like, I'm sure that Devin Haney and Bill Haney are going to try as hard as they can not to fight either one of them, or Abdullayev now as hard as they can. They're going to try. So we'll see. Let's just say the WBC enforces this mandatory, because I don't know. Is Abdullayev a mandatory now for Devin Haney?
The WBC make up their own rules, don't they? Like you'll see somebody do a WBC eliminator, and then they'll be like, "Oh no, that wasn't a final eliminator. That was just an eliminator." So you're like, "What?" So
yeah, there's like an eliminator and then a final eliminator.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, I don't see them putting him in there with Devin Haney again. Obviously, all roads are trying to lead to Kambosos. So
right, and they still haven't announced anything about that. His next fight at least as of this recording, but we'll see. But is it possible? Let's just say WBC jumps in and says, "Hey, Haney, well, you're not getting any of these bigger fights, so you have to fight Abdullayev again." Does Haney do it, or does he drop the belt?
No, I mean, it means all that gold means more pay, doesn't it? So I think he would keep it. He's kind of just is he the WBC champion, or is Kambosos? Like Lomachenko was the real WBC champion, and Teofimo Lopez beat him, and then Kambosos beat him. So Kambosos really is, right?
I would, I'm sure Eddie Hearn and DAZN are really offering Kambosos a lot of money right now, and said, "Hey, come out, go fight with us. Don't go after Lomachenko, even though, we'll pay you more." They have to pay him more because Lomachenko's already said, "Pay me whatever you want."
I think the selling point, isn't it? I heard or read that Lomachenko said, like, "Hey, if I beat you, there's a rematch clause. And the rematch clause is also in Australia."
Yeah, I think whoever he gets has to agree to that.
So he gets 2 fights over there, back home. So that's from Lomachenko. And supposedly, obviously, this is hearsay. Loma said, "Whatever. Like if he needs part of my check, give it to him. I want legacy. I'm not bothered about." For the financials. But then Devin supposedly countered that by saying, "I'll take what Loma takes."
Yeah, he tweeted right back after he read that news. He's like, "Whatever deal he wants, I'll take the same thing." I mean, him saying that, you got to give it to Haney. He's like really, even if he doesn't get the fight, you really got to give it to him. If all this is like real and not let's just like clout chasing, especially after you tweeted that, whatever deal he has, I'll take the same thing. You got to give it to him. Like he's really like, "Hey man, I'll take the same deal he has." He's really trying. He's trying, And I honestly think Haney beats Kambosos. I really do. But maybe I might be wrong. I think Kambosos has that dog in him right now, and he's on top of the world. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm interested to see how those turn of events develop as the weeks come forward. Also, this past weekend, we touched on this earlier, from the Plaza Monumental in Tijuana, Baja California, Jaime Munguia gets the third round TKO over Demetrius Ballard. This is for the WBO Intercontinental Middleweight title. I think everybody knew Munguia was a big favorite here. They did it at a type of little stadium in Tijuana, which on camera it looks cool. It looks like a really cool place to watch a fight. Kind of like a homecoming fight. It's been a couple of years since he fought over there. So I think Munguia needs a name. He needs a name. I don't know. Demetrius Andrews already said that he's like, "Well, yeah, I'll fight him," and he's a champion. But maybe Golden Boy feels that he's not ready for.
No good matchup.
It's not a good matchup. I mean,
stylistically.
But I mean, like now they're talking about who's the next guy, the mandatory or the eliminator. It was
Zach Parker, isn't it?
No, it's not Parker. That's not the name I was looking at. Isn't it a top rank fighter? Is it a top rank fighter? Isn't it like a Ukrainian guy or a Russian guy?
Oh, Yanabek.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm assuming that's the next fight.
That's a tricky fight.
I mean, see, like, if I was De La Hoya or Golden Boy, because that is a tricky fight. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it's a tricky fight, and Yanabek doesn't have the star power. He doesn't have the name. He doesn't have a title. Andre's already said that he's down to fight you. Why not just skip Yanabek and avoid the hard fight, get a bigger payday? I think, and you tell me if you agree with this or not, I think Munguia has a better shot at Andre than he does against Yanabek.
Business-wise, I agree with you. I would take Andre, more of a name, world title. Andre, more of a combination puncher, isn't he? So you could kind of walk him down a bit, kind of wait for his power to diminish a little bit more, and then hopefully walk him down in the later rounds and catch him. But Andre, when he's on, when he's on, he's good.
No, yeah. He's got a mean streak.
But he starts fast, knocks you down, and then how many times you see him, he just coasts. He just slips it back a gear, like goes from fourth into third, and I'll just sit here. I'll just coast it out for the rest. That seems to be his problem in terms of us as fans watching. Because at times he looks like he has all the skills, but he just I'll just win on points. Don't want to take him out. Don't want to risk it. Don't want to open myself up to anything coming back. Which for us, watching it's no good. It's not. Nobody wants to see him because of that. That's for his star power, for his drawing power to put bums on seats and get him bigger paydays. He needs to start like that, start in fourth and fifth, and be like, what, I'm going to take this guy out, and I've got the skills to do it, and I'm going to open myself up a bit, but I have the confidence in myself and in my chin that if something does come back, I can take it, which he doesn't seem to do. But yeah, I mean, if I was them, I would go Andrade, because I think Annabek, like you said, there's no name power, and they're both tricky fights. Why not take the bigger fight?
Why? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why? Take the bigger, more marketable fight, and you have a world title shot.
And they're both on. It's on DAZN. Golden Boy, Matchroom. It's on DAZN. It should be easy to make.
I feel like the DAZN brass would be telling Golden Boy, like, hey, just put him against Andrade.
Andrade owes Matchroom and DAZN.
He does.
He's really fought loads of English, British, lower level fighters, probably for good paydays, because he was one of the early guys that got the DAZN contract. He owes them a bigger fight, so he really should do that.
Who's the one that's more stuck between a rock and a hard place, Andrade or Haney?
Well, Haney's the same. Haney's been getting monumental paydays for fighting not the greatest opponents.
But I mean, he got Linares. He got
Linares.
He got Jojo Diaz.
I'll give you them too. Yeah.
But I mean, Andrade's he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, man. Like, and I think it's to the point where they're just like.
I think Devin Haney, though, in my opinion, from what you hear and from what he does and all the stuff that he posts, I think he prices himself out with stuff. I think he seems to think that he's been overpaid for a while, that he needs even more money for some of these fights where, dude, you're already loaded. You've already made a lot of money. Your family's loaded. Now go for legacy. Fight some of these people from, okay, you may have to take lesser purse. You may have to take less than you believe you should, but it'll pay off when you beat them, right? Risk, invest in yourself,
I mean, he's trying with the Lomachenko fight. It seems like he's really trying.
But like you said, is that just
it's just for show? Is it for show?
Yeah, I mean, I could do that. If you were a fighter, what we'll do, winner takes all. But then when it comes down to it, you're like, hell no. How many people post stuff like that? Then nothing gets made. That seems to be the case. How often do you hear Andrade is the most avoided person in the division, but yet other people can get fights. It's just it just sticks.
The only one that, at least in recent memory, that's been successful after he's posted on social media about wanting to fight or I'll take this fight is Jojo Diaz.
Yeah, my opinion of him massively changed. Yeah. Since the new Jojo Diaz appeared.
Yeah, he's posted stuff and he's gotten the fight, like the Haney fight, when Haney was originally going to fight who was the original scheduled opponent, and they fell off, and Jojo Diaz jumped in and he was like, I'll fight him, I'll take the fight. And Haney called him out and replied back to him and said, if you really want the fight, have Golden Boy reach out. And look at what happened. They made the fight, and Jojo got the title shot. Yeah, he lost, but he wasn't outclassed. It was a decent, entertaining fight. He held his own. Haney won the fight, but Jojo responded online and was like, I'll take the fight. And even after he lost, a couple of days later, he was like, I'll still fight Ryan. He still threw it out there. It's like, dang. So it could happen. But yeah, Andrade, I'm telling you, if I was Golden Boy, bypass Janibek, just go straight for Andrade. Go straight for Andrade. Because I honestly think it's a tricky fight, but I think Munguia beats him. I really do. I might be wrong, but I think Munguia beats him. And I think it's an interesting fight. I mean, who else is Munguia going to get right now at 160 pounds? And if he's really having, who knows? Maybe it was a nutrition thing, but based on that video at the weigh-in after he weighed in, how he looked, kind of drained. If you notice, and we've seen it before, obviously, but for Munguia for this weigh-in, he looked drained. He looked exhausted. He had the glasses on. His face was just. And the next day when we saw him again after he's rehydrated, he's able to have a meal. He looked like he was filled out a lot more. He looked healthier. He was smiling, walking around into the arena. Like, is he having trouble making 160, or was this just a bad weight cut? Nutrition? Who knows? We're gonna have to wait for this next fight. But I'm sure that's something that Golden Boy's noticing right now too. Is okay, that wasn't a good sign. Is he having trouble making 160? If that's the case, they talk to him and he's like, you know what? Yeah, my body's kind of fighting back. Golden Boy needs to be like, okay, we're making the Andrade fight. We need to get you a title shot. I mean, because he had the title 154 and he vacated it and he moved up because he couldn't make the weight. I think that's why you have to make the Andrade fight, especially if he's having trouble making 160 pounds now and he has to move up to 168. Why not move up to 168? Canelo's there. Imagine a Munguia-Canelo fight in like a year or two. Golden Boy's back in the fold. It's Golden Boy and Munguia against Canelo and Eddie Hearn. Imagine the story and the marketing behind that. Just imagine it in Vegas. I'm telling you, Munguia-Canelo, what's the likelihood of that happening in the next 3 years?
It should. I mean, it should, because just like, I don't understand why he doesn't really want to take the big Mexican fights, like he said before, like the Benavidez, the Munguia. It fell out 80,000 stadium easy
in Mexico,
Texas, yeah.
Oh yeah, Texas, yeah, I can see it.
Dallas, right, somewhere like that.
Yeah, Cowboy Stadium, yeah. Yeah, who knows? But obviously he got the win. He made a quick night. I think he did what he had to do. And I'm telling you, I think I would take the Andrade fight. If he doesn't, there's obviously some reasoning behind it, but I would do it. But I'm sure Andrade wants to be like, you have to come to Rhode Island or you have to come to me. Eddie Hearn's going to say that, but I feel like Andrade has to the point where he's like, okay, I'll go wherever you want, as long as I get some decent name. He has to go to LA. Go to Arizona. Go to Texas. The ball's in Munguia's court for that one. I think Andrade knows that, and he just kind of has to do it. But who knows? Moving on to this upcoming weekend, fight previews this Saturday, the 26th of February, from the SSE Hydro in Glasgow on ESPN Plus. Josh Taylor, in his first defense of his undisputed super lightweight titles, goes up against Jack Catterall. I think we talked about this after Taylor beat Ramirez, how you said that Jack Catterall was going to get a shot, probably likely next. But you're not really giving him much of a chance. You think Taylor's going to run through him, right? I believe that's what you kind of said, maybe not in those words.
Yeah, he should.
Taylor's a monster. He is.
Yeah, Josh Taylor's, he's undisputed. You don't become undisputed in the 140 division just.
And it's not like Ramirez didn't give him like a decent fight. Like Ramirez had some good moments, but Taylor's power was just too much.
The problem with Taylor is he's got slightly like Amir Khan. Taylor, for the first, I think it was like 6 rounds of the fight. I was there. Wanted to stand and trade with him. Eventually, when he decided to wake up and just box, it was easy against Ramirez. And I think in this sort of fight, Jack Catterall has been kind of on the shelf for a long time, hasn't been tested. He's been, just waiting for his shot at the WBO title because he's been mandatory. He actually stepped aside to let Josh Taylor fight Jose Ramirez. And now, now's his chance. But unfortunately, I think Josh Taylor's going to be just too good.
Yeah, I mean, he should be. But what if Jack Catterall upsets him? What an upset that would be.
Yeah, I mean, not to look past him, but Josh Taylor's already been talking about facing like it was going to be Teofimo Lopez, but now it'd probably be more like a Kambosos or moving up and even fighting Terence Crawford. So yeah, there's some big fights. If Josh can focus on this.
Right. Do you think that you mentioned how a Teofimo Lopez Josh Taylor fight was mentioned at 140? Lopez has already said he's moving to 140. Taylor has already hinted at moving to 147. Do you think Top Rank, if he beats Catterall this weekend, do you think Top Rank still proposes that idea? Like, hey, we know you're going to move up. How about you fight Lopez before you move up at 140 pounds?
Great fight.
I think that's a pretty good fight.
Great fight.
I think Top Rank from a business perspective would propose that idea. No, like, hey, fight Lopez before you move up. And Lopez has a chance to, if he wins, to become undisputed at 140 pounds. And then he runs the division, essentially, and gets another second win after his 135 loss to Kambosos. Taylor moves up, goes to welterweight, Crawford.
Well, Josh Taylor smokes Catterall, then smokes Teofimo Lopez, moves up and then smokes Crawford.
Do you think he beats Crawford at 147 pounds?
I was just saying that because he was British. But
I was going to say, dang. Do you think Crawford, with the bad blood that he has with Top Rank right now, do you think he even fights Taylor at all in the next couple of years?
I thought it was going to happen, but then after what Crawford said the other day in an interview, saying if he can't get the Spence fight, he wants to move up, which I found it very intriguing because I didn't think he'd be big enough for 154. But
fight Charlo,
right? But then I liked the interview of when you saw Josh Taylor and Crawford met in the Top Rank gym, and you could kind of see they were both talking. They were, very nice, just kind of, saying hello and blah blah blah. But you could see each other while like looking each other up and down.
Crawford, I think even Crawford said he's a big guy.
Yeah, they were sizing each other up.
Yeah,
which I was like, okay, that does like these two may fight. It was a test though. Why not? Like, Crawford did the same thing as Taylor did.
Yeah, same thing. He's on the same path.
Yeah, so why not? Wait there and then move up and big up payday, especially if he decided to come over here. I mean, he came over here to fight. Sorry, over here. I'm in California. If he went to the UK and fought Taylor, he went over there to fight Ricky Burns.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So,
there's a lot of combinations that they can be met between 140 147. But honestly, Top Rank, if you want to deliver content to ESPN and make Disney happy, I'm sure they're going to propose that, hey, before you move up to 147, how about a Lopez fight at 140 pounds? It's decent payday, pretty big payday. We should get a pretty decent size audience on regular ESPN. They might even make that ESPN pay-per-view, but I think that's a business side, and even from a matchup side, I think that's great. I think it's great. And then Taylor moves up. Let's just say Taylor beats Lopez. Taylor moves up, vacates the titles. Top Rank's gonna try to, obviously get Lopez to get one of those titles, or get Jose Ramirez to get one of those titles. Why not? Lopez Ramirez. I think a Lopez Ramirez fight would be awesome. Think about it. Think about the possibilities. But so does Josh Taylor stop Jack Catterall, or does it go to decision?
I think he stops him.
In what round?
Later, 8.
I'm going 4.
Early night.
I'm going 4. Early night. Well, all these early nights we've been seeing, I'm trying to stick with the trend. Also on the card, Robisai Ramirez, 8-1. How do you say it?
I think it's Robeezy Ramirez.
Robeezy Ramirez, 8-1, goes up against Eric Donovan, 14-1. Who wins this?
Good fight. Two good prospects that are actually kind of matching up early in their career. I might go for a shock here. I might go for Donovan.
What?
Ramirez has been a little bit hot and cold.
What?
Good fight, though. Good fight.
We'll see. Also, this upcoming weekend on Showtime from the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas, Chris Colbert, 16-0, goes up against Hector Luis Garcia, 14-0. Based on the records, should be competitive, but Colbert's got some talent.
Yeah,
I feel like he takes it, and he's the easy favorite here. What do you think?
No, I agree. Someone's O has got to go. The old usual sign that you see on the posters. Yeah, Colbert, it looks legit, doesn't he? Good fighter. There's obviously Hector Luis Garcia as a standing opponent. I think Colbert takes this, pretty easily, to be honest with you.
Also on the card, Jerwin Ancajas, trained by Freddie Roach, I believe, 33-1-2, goes up against Fernando Daniel Martinez for the IBF Super Flyweight title. I like Ancajas. I like watching him. He's very entertaining. I think he's the easy favorite here. What do you think?
Problem is when you get these like unknown guys that come from like South America. We've seen it on the Eddie Hearn cards. You're like, Ancajas is going to wipe the floor with him. You wouldn't be surprised if Martinez came in and just knocked him out, because it just happens, doesn't it? In these lightweights, you get these unknown guys that come from nowhere and they're legit. Ancajas has a lot of fights as well, though, for Superfly. That's what you got to think. He has had a lot of fights, a lot of wars as well.
I always think about and I think you were at the fight too, but I was there covering it. Robert Guerrero at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. Robert Guerrero and the literal, and I'm not saying this to dog him, he was the literal cab driver from Argentina. David Peralta. He was promoted by Samson Lukowicz. And Peralta beat him. He beat him. And people were like, what the hell? Like, because everybody like coming in was like, oh yeah, this is just, get Robert Guerrero a fight. Peralta was just he was unknown, and he won the fight. I mean, he didn't amount to anything after that. He lost, I think, his next fight in overseas somewhere. But that I always think about that fight just because I was there ringside covering it. So you said, yeah, you're right. I think there's always that realm of possibility. These unknown guys that fans don't really know, the media doesn't really know, they come in and we're like, oh yeah, we don't, we kind of have that unnecessary thought process where we look at it like, I don't really know who that is, so that means they're not that good,
right? Exactly.
Which is not necessarily true. So like you said, it happens. It has happened more than a few times to the point where you would think we would, assess fights differently, but sometimes it's hard. There's a lot of new names that are popping up in the sport. It's hard to keep track, but we try. Also on the card, Victor Postol returns. He's had some pretty decent fights over his career against Gary Antoine Russell, 14-0. Isn't Russell like a rising prospect?
Yeah. He's one of the Gary Russell Jr. clan.
Right.
This is a good measuring stick because Postol only really has losses to some of the best. So to see how good Gary Antoine Russell is, very, very good measuring stick. Is it harsh to say Postol's a gatekeeper now? But a gatekeeper to the top echelon of the division.
Well, okay, let's go. You talked about his losses. He lost to Terrence Crawford. He lost
Taylor.
He lost to Josh Taylor, and he lost to.
The other one was a long time ago.
Who did he beat? Who did he beat in Carson? Remember, over here in Carson, California, at the StubHub. Didn't he beat somebody there? Was it Lucas Matisse? Right?
It might have been Matisse. I think
it was Matisse. I think I was there for that fight. I think Matisse's eye, and he took a knee. He just didn't get up and.
Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, and Terrence Crawford.
Yeah. Ramirez beat him, but it was a tricky fight.
He knocked out Matisse in the 10th.
Yes, that's right. That was at StubHub in Carson, California. Yeah, I think I agree. I agree with how you described that. Postol is a gatekeeper, but maybe to the upper echelon of the division. I could agree with that. I think it's kind of weird how we're describing it as that, but it's true. That's true.
I mean, he was a world champion back in the day, but I just think now that's what he's become, even though he's only had 3 losses to the very best, I guess, Terrence Crawford. I mean, it's not many better than those guys. So yeah, if Gary Antoine Russell gets this, and this is his 15th career win against someone of Victor Postal's, standard, it's a very good win in my opinion. If he does it,
that's crazy. That is crazy. Moving on to news and notes. Dillian Whyte, finally. I thought it came to the 11th hour there, and I thought there was going to be some crazy things happening. I was like, is he really not going to sign, or is he just trying to play mind games here? But Dillian Whyte finally signs the contract to face Tyson Fury, reportedly at least. I don't know if there's any official announcement, but reportedly signs a contract to fight Tyson Fury on April 23rd at Wembley Stadium. Were you as confused, I guess, as I was? And did you think Dillian Whyte was playing games, or did you think there was a chance that he wasn't going to sign and this fight wasn't going to happen?
I think he's playing games. You're never going to turn down $8 million when he's been. I'm sure Dillian Whyte's been getting paid very well, but he's never made anything like $8 million for one fight. I think he's just playing games, and he's kind of doing what Wilder did, where he knows that Tyson Fury is very good at talking trash. He's very quick-witted. And I'm sure Dillian Whyte's like, you know what? I'm not going to get into a war of words with someone like Tyson. So I'm just going to, concentrate on the fight and just, do it that way. Keep silent until probably, very close to the fight when they do the press conferences and media days. He may even do it then, just to kind of bring maybe a little bit of edge to the fight. But I hope he does do the media and they go back and forth.
Yeah. Either way, it should be entertaining. The press conferences and all that, it should be entertaining. Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum working together,
right?
That's entertaining too. The Matchroom. I mean, I'm obviously ESPN and BT Sport are going to be the leads here, but Eddie Hearn's going to be involved. He'll be doing press for it. Trying to hype up the fight.
We'll see Uncle Eddie soon. We'll see Uncle Eddie in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. At the Chocolatito fight in San Diego. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're hopefully we make it out there safely, everything, and we get some more content. We're gonna try to grab him again. We got him in person after the Chavez Jr. Jacobs fight in Phoenix, Arizona, a couple years ago. So hopefully we can grab him again, and you guys can listen to him again on the last round. Obviously, he gives a lot of interviews, but he's very good. He's very detailed. He's very responsive to questions. Very in-depth in his answers. So it works out for him. And I know we touched on this last week, but Ryan Garcia has parted ways with trainer Eddie Reynoso and the Canelo team down there in San Diego, California, because he said, quote, he didn't have time to train me. I think he also said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, that during the first 2 weeks of his training camp for this next fight that he's preparing for, Eddie Reynoso wasn't even there. Then he showed up, and I guess that kind of irritated Ryan Garcia. So now he's training with Joe Goossen. He's already posted some pictures of them shopping together that we talked about when it happened. But Joe Goossen, he's a hard ass too. He's going to make him work. So if people think he's going to get a free pass with Joe Goossen, that's not the case. But who knows? I kind of assumed it was the beginning of the end when Canelo publicly came out on record and offered his criticisms of the kid. I think that was the beginning of the end. And because Canelo is such a reserved guy, he will not come out and say anything publicly or won't put anything out there publicly if he's really not feeling it. He doesn't have those trigger fingers. He doesn't get it doesn't seem like he gets emotional and upset and he has to say something, always, respond back to people. So that's why when I saw that, I was like, oh man, trouble in paradise. So obviously it didn't work out. Let's see how Ryan Garcia does under Joe Goossen. They obviously have some history together. It'd be interesting to see how it goes. Can Joe Goossen motivate Ryan Garcia like he did Diego Corrales? Who knows? What do you think about the whole situation?
If Ryan, has, kind of grown up and he's going to focus on his boxing, then I think Joe Goossen stylistically is a good is a good trainer for him. You know, he does like heavy-handed fighters that, you know, kind of concentrate on, you know, single punches. Because I was in camp with, you know, Amir Khan when he was with Joe Guzan that time. And, you know, that's kind of what Joe was doing with him. And obviously I thought it was kind of odd because Amir is more of a combination puncher, but that's kind of the style that he likes. He likes, you know, big punching fighters. So that does suit Ryan. But I think, you know, Ryan's own worst enemy. You know, he kind of focuses on a lot of stuff, you know, on outside of the ring, because he is a business. He right. is a business. And
no, yeah, I think he knows he has to give attention to that, which, you know, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably needs to, you know, kind of separate them. And, you know, when it's boxing time, it's boxing time. You know, everything else kind of needs to take the back seat, which is, you know, I'm sure is easier said than done. But only time will tell. But, you know, hopefully it does well. You know, Ryan's a local fighter for us, and, you know, it'd be good to see him do well. And I think we all want to see him in there with those big names in the lightweight division. So, you know, hopefully
he's polarizing. He's a polarizing figure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
He gets attention.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you how, like, maybe, you know, when it's fight time and he has to train, you know, maybe he should disconnect a little bit from social media and, you know, that whole side of his lifestyle. But that he's like a business now. So I think he knows he can't. So he puts out the videos or he does this and that. So, like, in a way, it, you know, pays the bills. But look at Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury posted recently, within the last day or so, I don't know if you saw it, but he posted a poster I saw it on Twitter at least, like a statement saying he's in training camp, he's going to be doing like a media blackout. So his team is going to be running his social media accounts and all that stuff. And if they want to get in touch with him or whatever, to email like something at TysonFury.com. So he put like, hey, everybody's going to put that stuff out on my social media handles. They're going to put Team Fury. That's going to be them. That's not going to be me. I mean, and Fury has a huge profile. Does Ryan need to do that? Something like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just hard, you know, to meet all those demands. You know, you're only one person. There's only so many hours in the day, and, you know, boxing is unforgiving. So yeah, I think so.
Who knows? But once again, making it to the end right here as we're crossing the finish line of this week's episode of The Last Round. Thank you again for joining us this week. And before we completely sign off again, Mike, go ahead and let them know where they can find us and follow us.
We're at The Last Round 12 on Instagram and Twitter. And be sure to join us next week. We'll be previewing Jose Ramirez's big fight and the huge Roman Chocolatito against Julio Cesar Martinez. Can't wait for that one.
Looking forward to that one, definitely, in the San Diego, California area. For once again, for my co-host Michael Shepard, I'm Danny Z. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.